Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star 2 episode number 201 based on novel. So let's start. Luo Feng gazed at the 23 world-level primordial beings before him, along with the countless over 10 million high-level primordial lives. In the future, managing the vast territory under his command would depend on these subordinates. The cultivator territory was vast, and it could be anticipated that as the overall strength increased, the territory would continue to expand. A large number of source worlds, billions of ordinary worlds, and naturally nurtured treasure mines. The high-level primordial lives on the cultivator side were not enough, so they had to rely on those innate primordial lives who had submitted to manage it barely. The lords wouldn't worry about these trivial matters. This is our first meeting. Luo Feng smiled at these subordinates. In the future, if there's anything important, feel free to report directly. All the subordinates listened excitedly, etching the image and aura of the man in black clothes and black hair before them deep in their hearts. This was the great lord they would follow from now on. Among the many high-level primordial lives, there were also Chio-Ge and Euphea. They had previously guarded the dark sacred realm and naturally belonged to Luo Feng's command. Not even 2,000 epochs have passed, and he's already a lord. Chio-Ge and Euphea gazed at Luo Feng in the distance, feeling that everything was too surreal. The last time they guided Luo Feng, he was merely a half-primordial fusion Dao cultivator, yet now, though his appearance hadn't changed, his aura was boundless, and every word carried endless pressure. This was the existence that grasped the highest power of Dao, and the primordial life and death Dao was a part of Luo Feng's life. Such a great existence brought unimaginable oppression. Even the hundreds of ancestors in the innate primordial life camp couldn't win against the 8 lords individually. It's known how terrifying the deterrence of any single lord is. Your tasks will soon be adjusted, detailed arrangements will be issued shortly, Luo Feng said. 23 world-level primordials and Cheng, stay behind, other high-level primordial lives may leave now. Yes. The over 10 million high-level primordial lives respectfully bowed and left. Having a chance to meet the Lord's main avatar was already satisfying for them. Cheng is truly fortunate. As these high-level primordial lives left, they looked towards Cheng with envy. Of course, they knew Cheng. Among the more than 10,000 high-level primordial lives in the Dark World group, Cheng had the greatest influence, and this time, he was specifically asked to stay by the Lord. Follow me inside. Luo Feng turned and walked towards the depths of the cave mansion, with the 23 world-level primordials and the only high-level primordial, Cheng, following in. The Lord actually kept me behind, intending to make great use of me. But I'm just a mere high-level primordial. The small and thin elder, Cheng, was a bit nervous and excited. He was also summoned by the Lord. The world-level primordials glanced at Cheng, briefly investigating and immediately understanding the detailed information about Cheng. Sky Moon Sea Cave Mansion. Luo Feng sat leisurely by a lakeside, looking at his subordinates. Our cultivator camp and the innate primordial life camp have just concluded the war. Some territories are still fallen and need to be recovered one by one, Luo Feng said. Each of you must bear the responsibility of guarding. Yes. The 23 world-level primordials and Cheng replied respectfully, with manpower being tight, and their main battle avatars needing to participate in the garrison. I have already appointed the 4 directions commanders and 19 guardian generals, Luo Feng said. At his level, based on the previous arrangements of the whole cultivator territory, he had already made the plan in just a few breaths. Every task for the high-level primordial lives had been determined, and those like Chio-Ge and Euphea, who had some acquaintance, received some significant roles this time as well. Am I the Guardian General? Qianlanqi received the detailed arrangements sent by the Lord. Qianlanqi, as a newly advanced world-level primordial, was of relatively low strength among the same level, ranked among the 19 Guardian Generals. In terms of power, much lower than the 4 directions commanders. Besides the borders, my subordinate territories also need 3 inspections, Luo Feng said. Instantly, each of the 23 world-level primordial lives tightened their hearts. The position of territory inspection essentially meant deputy management of expansive territories, since it could command over 100 world groups and offered numerous benefits. Will I be chosen? Tianlanqi was somewhat expectant. I am from the same world group as the Lord, but last time I didn't visit him, and my strength is relatively weak. Tianlanqi was feeling a sense of gain and loss at that moment. My territories are temporarily divided into 3 domains. First Domain Inspector, Chengshe; Second Domain Inspector, Shuhua; Third Domain Inspector, Guangyu, Luo Feng said. A bald man, seemingly ordinary with restrained aura, was actually the strongest in combat under Luo Feng. Chengshe was originally a fusion Dao cultivator, later choosing to refine bloodlines into a world-level primordial. He chose 2 completely opposite bloodlines and pushed the power of the bloodline to an incredible level. At the world-level primordial tier, he is one of the top ranks in the cultivator camp. He is quite humble, has many friends, and has conducted affairs to the satisfaction of the lords over a long time. Luo Feng chose him without hesitation as the first. Shuhua, somewhat burly, clad in deep purple scales, is the weakest among the 3 inspectors, at the late stage of the world-level primordial. However, he had previously served as an inspector and did very well. Guangyu, a man with bent horns, at world-level primordial perfection tier. His strength under Luo Feng was second only to Chengshe. Luo Feng chose these 3 because they had previously proven to be extremely capable of doing things. I was selected. Xu Hua felt relieved. Being chosen by Yuan before did not guarantee that Luo Feng would also select him. But he was still chosen. The Lord likely values capability over strength. Xu Hua understood, for the Lord, the difference between early stage and perfection world-level primordials may make no difference. He had previously conducted affairs in such a manner as to satisfy the Lord adequately. Not me. Tianlanqi felt a bit disappointed, but he also understood that when the Lord hadn't stepped out of the braided cage, the entire hometown of over 10,000 high-level primordial lives had visited, but he alone didn't. That was a total lack of respect. The Lord not choosing him was reasonable. This Tianlanqi, inherently arrogant, is unsuitable for an inspection role. Luo Feng indeed regarded Tianlanqi highly, considering they came from the same hometown. But from some prior matters, Luo Feng could discern Tianlanqi's character. Tianlanqi was too arrogant. He esteemed those stronger than himself and couldn't be bothered with those weaker. Even when he was a high-level primordial life, he was on poor terms with over 10,000 high-level primordial lives from the same hometown. The townsfolk didn't regard him highly. The more minor and weaker ones? Why would Tianlanqi care? Such a disposition, to manage over 100 world groups. Directly overseeing tens of thousands of high-level primordial lives and monitoring hundreds of thousands of them? Each patrol impacts hundreds of world groups. Luo Feng, responsible for countless weak ones, must also be careful. In Luo Feng's view, sympathizing with the weak is the first requirement of being a patrol. Cheng. Luo Feng looked at the only high-level primordial present. Lord. Cheng was very excited. Being valued so highly by the Lord, he was willing to die in battle for him at this moment. The Dark World Group is my absolute territory, Luo Feng said. The construction needed next will be managed by you, leading numerous high-level primordial life forms, responsible for the detailed construction affairs. Though some of the absolute territories were built personally by Luo Feng, the majority still required many high-level primordial life forms and numerous captives to labor painstakingly. The subordinate will exert every effort, Cheng said excitedly. Good. Luo Feng nodded with a smile, believing in Cheng's organizational skills because of his influence locally. Among my territories, 93 world groups still remain in ruin. Luo Feng looked at his subordinates. The 65 world groups occupied by the innate primordial life camp will be swiftly reclaimed by our lords. The remaining 28 world groups have been invaded by both the Blood Crane territory and Omimo forces. Chengshe, make a trip to the Blood Crane territory, compel them to quickly return the occupied world groups. If they refuse, simply return, Luo Feng instructed. Yes, Chengshe responded. Guan Yu, visit Omimo, similarly instructing them to return the occupied world groups. If they refuse, there's no need to argue, just return directly. The following matters can be left to me, Luo Feng said. How to reclaim the fallen territories had already been deliberated and determined by the 8 lords. The world groups occupied by the innate primordial life camp, because the ancestors were unwilling to continue fighting, naturally wouldn't hold on to those territories, making it easy for the 8 lords to reclaim them. The Ice Peak camp occupied over 100 world groups, to be dealt with last, when all 8 lords would address it together. There are 11 other forces, granting them the chance to withdraw voluntarily. If face isn't given, then initiate war. The cultivator camp faces too many opponents, and that's why they are given the chance to voluntarily withdraw. These 11 forces, although only 2 have seats in the land of eternity, the others do not have seats. But lacking a seat doesn't mean weak. Just like 9 emperors among whom 5 do not have seats in the land of eternity, yet their strength is exceedingly strong. The forces Luo Feng plans to target, Blood Crane Territory and Omimo, each has considerable foundations, otherwise they wouldn't dare exploit the situation. Like the force Omimo, which ranked among the top 3 camps in infinite primordial space in the distant past. Later, Omimo's camp was defeated by the innate primordial life camp, either killed or fled, now only possessing 1/10 to 2/10 of its original strength. I hope these 2 forces will know what's at stake, Luo Feng thought. Cultivator Territory, Dark World Group, Land of Origin Source World. This is the Land of Origin. Xushin stood in the sky above Huyang City, gazing at the flourishing city. Since Luo Feng mastered the source world of his homeland, Xushin became like a child of the world, unaffected by any threat or harm, even capable of wielding a strand of origin power from the source world. Luo Feng, what realm have you reached? Xushin looked at Luo Feng, her eyes filled with disbelief. Just recently, Luo Feng had her understand numerous insights. The supreme rules no longer limit her, allowing her to comprehend all secrets. Considered the highest level among cultivators, Lord, Luo Feng said. Lord? Having just learned the information, Xushin couldn't help but say, according to what you told me, even being in the Divine Emperor realm still resides inside the braided cage. Stepping outside the braided cage is what's known as high-level primordial life, world-level primordial life, and ultimately Lord. You've become a Lord. Xushin only felt everything was too dreamlike. Morosa. Luo Feng summoned him with a thought. Morosa appeared out of thin air and was even more shocked when he saw Xushin. He knew very well the mistress's power was weak, unable to survive under the environment of the land of origin. But now, facing her, the force he felt from her seemed capable of crushing him. Morosa, greetings to the 2 masters. Morosa respectfully saluted. Luo Feng glanced at him. Morosa, as the sector beast, would have been destined to die with the self-destruction of the source world if he hadn't broken free from fate's restraints. But now, with Luo Feng mastering the source world, Morosa naturally escapes those restraints. Even if dead, Luo Feng could resurrect him. Within the source world of my homeland, life inside the braided cage can now be resurrected by me, Luo Feng said, so it's necessary to decide the resurrection list. Both Xushin and Morosa were shocked. Resurrection? Luo Feng had long planned, intending to personally draft a list. His wife, Luo Ping, Luo Hai, led by his closest kin, could also determine a resurrection list, representing Luo Feng's family. The primordial ancestor, Primal Chaos City Lord, Hong, Thunder Lord, True Inference King, led by humanity on the primordial cosmos side, would also draft a list. Morosa, Master Emperor Chu, Master Mountain Sitting Guest, leading another force, would also draft a list. Emperor Qing, Emperor Ming, Di Fu, Moyu Qingyang, Emperor Chu Yu, etc., also have advisory rights. Future land of origin source world must maintain a balance among the 3 sides. After resurrection, can everyone obtain eternal life? Xushin asked. Yes. Luo Feng nodded. What about the quantity? Xushin pressed further. For me, there's no limit. Luo Feng replied with a smile. Xushin stirred up a tremendous wave. As Luo Feng's wife, she managed many affairs in the galaxy sacred land universe. She was well aware that eternal life after resurrection, no limit on quantity, would bring many issues. There must be a threshold for resurrection. Shushin said, otherwise, these numerous resurrected lives will severely impact order. Over time, as their numbers grow and their descendants multiply endlessly, the impact will become increasingly severe. Eternal life after resurrection is an enormous joy, but if not handled well, it could lead to endless troubles. Don't worry about impacting order. Luo Feng said with a smile, the resurrection list for the primordial cosmos, I will create a separate new primordial cosmos for them. They will live within this new primordial cosmos, favored by the rules, all possessing eternal life, but their cultivation would still need to progress step by step from star traveler level to star level. If they are capable, and cultivate to become a true god of void space and pass through reincarnation to enter the land of origin, that would be their own ability. Those resurrected, cultivating step by step from weakness, how many can become eternal true gods in the primordial cosmos region environment? Create a separate new primordial cosmos. Shushin brightened up. This way would avoid much trouble, as many resurrected hold very special statuses, and some even have favor owed to Luo Feng. That way, the list could be significantly expanded, even allowing for the resurrection of a large number of innocent creatures who died in the golden horned giant beast calamity. Shushin nodded, recognizing that even if resurrected, it's just the population of one planet. To think, there would be a new primordial cosmos at that time. However, the list must be carefully screened. Those guilty of heinous crimes or betraying humanity will not qualify. Shushin contemplated. No rush, first establish a mature resurrection plan. Luo Feng said. Those resurrected, if killed, will they die? Shushin asked again. Yes. Luo Feng nodded, I can grant them another chance for resurrection, but the threshold must be raised significantly. Shushin nodded, knowing this was a matter with profound implications. Just within the Luo family, historically numerous talented ones who died, those who had earned merit points, who sacrificed themselves for family and humanity, were already numerous. Morosa, I'll have my mentors Emperor Chu and Mountain Sitting Guest, with the two of you responsible for the revival list of cultivators from the land of origin. Luo Feng said, the list for revival on the land of origin requires even greater caution. The creatures in the primordial cosmos side are generally weak, consuming less resources. The land of origin side is different. Resurrecting a life form would consume resources that surpass those needed for creatures of the primordial cosmos. Understood. Morosa was very obedient. I'll first go find Luo Ping. Shushin said, taking a step to cross distant spacetime and headed for the primordial cosmos region. Being able to harness a trace of the primordial cosmos origin power, she could be considered an envoy of the source world. Within the scope of the origin continent origin world, even the divine emperor is far from her match. Luo Feng watched this scene, knowing his son Luo Ping was the true manager of the Luo family. Swoosh! Luo Feng also took a step and left. What realm has the master truly reached? Morosa had many thoughts, learning everything Luo Feng and his wife Shushin had discussed, yet neither had told others, including Morosa. Morosa only knew the master was strong beyond imagination, able to elevate the mistress to a terrifying level of power, capable of resurrecting all lives within the braided cage. I've heard that only the master of the source world can resurrect lives within the source world. Is the master of the source world? Morosa wondered, having some understanding of what lies above the braided cage in past years. Luo Feng himself had a resurrection list in mind. Those who have supported him from weakness on his journey, anyone with a measure of favor towards him, Luo Feng is willing to offer them resurrection opportunities along with resurrecting those they care most about. The Firehammer Squad from before, the teacher who once taught me, the comrades who fought alongside me in the wilderness zone, and the companions who perished during the golden horned giant beast catastrophe, each of these figures in Luo Feng's heart, never forgotten. For those with favor towards Luo Feng, he would not only resurrect them but also equip them with certain resources, smoothing their path in cultivation. In a secluded small town on the land of origin, Mountain Sitting Guest lived in seclusion there. He practiced artifact refining alone. Flames surged, illuminating Mountain Sitting Guest's face, as he gazed at the flames with fascination. To him, obsession with cultivation and artifact refining allowed him to forget many things. Teacher? A voice rose. Surprised, mountain-sitting guest turned his head, eyes cutting through the quiet room to see the black-clad, black-haired man in the cave mansion. Luo Feng. Mountain-sitting guest set aside his refinement work, immediately stepping out. Why have you suddenly come to visit teacher? Mountain-sitting guest smiled. In this world, this disciple was the closest person to him. I've come today to share good news with teacher. Luo Feng smiled. What good news? Mountain-sitting guest asked with a smile, though his heart remained calm. Disciple has cultivated to a very high realm. Luo Feng said, now, all creatures within the source world of the origin continent. As long as they've not escaped the braided cage, every creature ever birthed in history, disciple can resurrect. Mountain-sitting guest felt as if his mind exploded. Resurrect them all? Every creature ever birthed in history? Mountain-sitting guest could not help but inquire further. Yes. Luo Feng nodded, including your friends and family, every one of them can be resurrected. An overwhelming emotion filled the heart of the mountain-sitting guest at this moment. Was it ecstatic joy? Was it disbelief? Unbelievable? Is it true? Is this a dream? Looking at Luo Feng, from his expression, he was certain what his disciple said was true. His disciple Luo Feng could really accomplish it. How many can be resurrected? Mountain-sitting guest couldn't help but ask, can it be 10, 12? Teacher, you can make a list of up to 10,000. Luo Feng said, once the list is confirmed, I can resurrect them immediately. In a single thought, Luo Feng knew the past of the origin world in his hometown, knowing that for his teacher, mountain-sitting guest, there were truly thousands of important creatures. So, he rounded up to a quota of 10,000. Good, good, good. Mountain-sitting guest looked at Luo Feng, tears were already streaming down, smiling as he cried, after the destruction of Jin State, I had only one obsession for revenge. I never thought that the disciple I met in the primordial cosmos would not only help me fulfill my revenge but also resurrect my dearly departed friends and family. Luo Feng could feel that before killing the master of the Shi Kingdom, his teacher, mountain-sitting guest, was filled with hatred and focused solely on revenge. But after the revenge, it was as if his teacher's heart had died. Until today. An incredibly intense vitality, such a strong excitement and joy appeared in his teacher lived, his heart lived again. This was the happiest sight for him as a disciple. This is the list. Mountain-sitting guest, being a godly king, quickly finalized the list within moments. Luo Feng glanced at the 10,000 names, each connected with the past of the origin world, each having a causality with his teacher that Luo Feng clearly understood. They have been resurrected. With a single thought, Luo Feng brought these 10,000 figures from the past timeline to the present. The rules of the origin world operated such that if uncontrolled, time-space backlash would erase any attempt to resurrect. However, now the rules operated with Luo Feng's will as the core, naturally without any backlash. Mountain-sitting guest saw the 10,000 figures appearing in the cave mansion, including the master who once taught him, his many fellow disciples, his life and death friends, and his lifelong love. Mountain-sitting guest stared dazedly at that soul-stirring figure. Was she really back? These 10,000 figures now looked confused, most of them having died in the catastrophe of the Jin State's destruction, while some had died even earlier. What's going on? Where is this place? I'm not dead. Their memories were still at the moment of being destroyed. Mountain-sitting guest couldn't help but walk towards his senior sister. Luo Feng smiled and disappeared. It was time not to disturb the reunion of his teacher and friends. Along the border of the cultivated territory, Chengshe and Guang Yu, the two patrollers, were ordered by Lord Luo Feng to meet the forces of Blood Crane Territory and Omimo respectively. Has the Omimo force withdrawn? The horned man Guang Yu was very surprised. He carefully checked the 12 world groups formerly occupied by Omimo, and indeed, the Omimo side had fully withdrawn. Although they had harvested many resources from the vast territory, they hadn't significantly damaged many origin worlds and millions of worlds. The Omimo force is notoriously slippery. They flee when things look bad. Guan Yu lightly shook his head. The two camps' war just ended, and they immediately retreated. The Omomo force was indeed difficult to deal with. Despite once ranking in the top 3 in the infinite primordial space, the remaining 2 ancient beings were not to be trifled with after their decline. These 2 have survived until now, although not reaching absolute undying, are extremely strong, with powerful life-saving means. Yet, they are very cautious, choosing to flee at the slightest sign of trouble, never easily fighting to the death. I must report to the Lord immediately. Guan Yu felt quite pleased. Another patroller, Chengsha, encountered trouble. The Blood Crane territory force was much more domineering than Omomo. A little guy like you is fit to speak with me? Tell your lord to come meet me personally. A lofty voice echoed in the vast surrounding space-time. The bald man Chengsha looked angry. Even if the innate primordial life camp fights with us, they ultimately lose. You, the small Blood Crane territory, my master is merciful, giving you the opportunity to retreat voluntarily, and yet you show no appreciation. I will report to my lord truthfully. A world-level primordial dares to be presumptuous in front of me. Accompanied by a cold snort. The bald man, Chengsha's avatar trembled slightly and turned to dust, yet as he turned to dust, Chengsha still gazed coldly at a faintly existing shadow in the distance. What can the cultivator lord do to me? That shadow was unafraid at all, thinking he could have the land he occupied returned with a word. Where is such a good bargain? This video will end here.